Hi everyone, good morning. This is Meteorologist Melanie Layden and it's 11 o'clock this morning, so it is time for our weather school for kids. We do this every Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock and we talk about a different topic of weather. I know a lot of kids are out of school right now, even parents too. We call this a weather school for kids, but these are actually really interesting for everyone of all ages. We've done some really cool topics so far, and today's lesson I thought it would be pretty appropriate to do on straight line winds. So if you're waking up this morning, or even last night if you saw some storm damage where you are, first of all, I hope everyone is okay. I hope your home is okay of any storm damage from trees that have fallen. This morning getting to work, I saw a lot of trees down, a lot of roads closed out there. We had some pretty powerful storms that moved through Middle Tennessee yesterday. We had a forewarned weather alert in effect for those strong storms, and we had a lot of straight line winds. So it got me thinking that today would be a great day to talk about what straight line winds are, because it can be kind of confusing, because a lot of people that we heard from here at News 4 thought that it was a tornado that came right through their home. And we're going to talk about the difference and what makes a straight line wind different from a tornadic wind. So there are two different things, and we're going to talk about the difference between those and what it looks like to a meteorologist when we go out and survey them as well. And we're also going to be showing you some pictures from the storm damage from last night around the Nashville area and around Middle Tennessee. So I know we had a lot of damage. If you have some damage where you live or you know of some in your neighborhood, we'd love to see your pictures. You can send those in to us too over the News 4 app, or you can email them to us, news@wsmv.com. So let's dive into the lesson. I got some people tuned in now, and we'll start our show of straight line winds today for Weather School for Kids. All right, so as I mentioned, Weather School for Kids, this goes on every Monday through Friday here on Facebook Live. And so we will be doing this at 11 o'clock every day. Myself, Dan Thomas, Lisa Spencer, Cody Murphy, and Laura Bannon, we all share each day, and we do a different topic. So today, straight line winds. We're talking about the difference between straight line winds and tornadic winds. And the difference is that they are definitely not the same, although the damage is very similar. I'm sorry, this slideshow keeps moving forward. I don't know how to stop that. But they can be very similar, but the damage is actually very different. Straight line winds is actually just winds that come out of the sky, whereas tornadic winds, they need that rotation. They need the kind of rotation of the tornado that you can see there. So this is a look at tornado damage. Notice how it kind of spins in a circle, and it's actually damage that is done like that. The tornado leaves debris lying in all kinds of multiple directions. Damage actually impacts really just one localized area, right where the tornado actually went through, whereas straight line winds, this is what its pattern looks like. All those trees will be kind of down in the same direction. The debris falls in one clear direction. It can impact bigger areas, and it can cause significant damage. And we saw that firsthand yesterday. A lot of power outages out too. So if you're tuning in because you can't watch the news, thank you for joining us. I know a lot of trees fell on power lines, and so that's what we've been dealing with today. So this is a look at what happens when a straight line wind forms. So we have the air that actually hits the ground that comes out of the sky. It's coming out from a fast-moving downdraft. And what a downdraft is all that air coming from the cloud, and it's basically this column of air that is just rushing to the ground. So when it hits the ground, it has nowhere to go. So you can see how when it hits the ground, the wind just completely just starts shooting out. And that's exactly what's happened with all these trees that we see down. So the fast-moving downdraft hits the ground, it continues in that straight path, and that strong wind can cause damage and form debris in a straight line. So that's pretty cool. That's the one big difference that we see with this damage versus tornado damage. But tornado damage needs that rotation from the sky. So this is from a downdraft. And we also see downdrafts a lot when we're talking about microbursts. And you probably have heard meteorologists talk about that every once in a while, about the difference in just a regular old thunderstorm and a microburst that comes down. So we'll talk about that here in a second too. Real quickly, I want to go back now that I've kind of figured out this of this pattern here of the slideshow. We're going to show you this one more time because it was kind of moving on me there for a minute. But the straight line winds versus tornadoes, that's what we were just talking about. We need that air to come down really fast from the sky, and it needs to hit the ground and just knock all those trees and the debris over in a straight line. And a tornado is rotating. It's rotating from the sky down to the ground. So you'll see debris just scattered everywhere versus straight line winds that kind of just make everything fall in one direction. But the thing about it is straight line winds could actually cause just as much damage, if not more, than a tornado. So a lot of people think that they just had a tornado hit their home when in fact it's actually just straight line winds. So one more time, I'm going to go through this. The damage of a tornado kind of moves in that circular pattern because the wind is rotating from the sky down to the ground. So it's actually, you know what a tornado looks like? It looks like that cone that's coming from the atmosphere down into the ground where we live on the surface. So that needs to be kind of moving around. You'll see debris kind of scattered in multiple directions versus straight line winds where they're all pretty much facing the same way because it's just one big swath of wind that just comes and blows everything over a particular area. So you'll actually see all the damage from the trees, especially kind of sitting parallel to right how the wind came through. Again, one more time, this is when the air hits the ground. We get these straight line winds from a downdraft. So it comes out of the cloud and that column of air just rushes down along with that rain. And when it hits the ground, it's got to go somewhere. So it's just going straight to the ground and knocking all those trees down with it. So it's really spreading out all over, but in straight lines. So, and these can really also impact large areas. And so can tornadoes, but you really have tornadoes that hit just a specific area, whereas straight line winds can hit all over the city, like what we just saw last night when all those storms moved through. So because of the rotation, you see debris lying all over the place when a tornado moves through, but typically straight line winds only just hit one certain area. But in this case, it was a little bit different because we had that long line of thunderstorms that moved through, and it moved right through all of the Middle Tennessee area and through Nashville, areas north and south. And so it took up a large portion of it. So here's a couple of pictures that I took around the Green Hills area. This is a tree that was knocked over right on a power line. And I know a lot of you tuning in right now probably don't have power at the moment. I didn't either. I had to take a shower at home and come to the station and get ready today because I didn't have any power to curl my hair or really even see. I didn't have electricity to see in the mirror. So we've had just a lot of storm damage here lately. And this ironically came exactly 2 months after the tornadoes that we saw through Nashville and through Putnam County. That was actually the night of March 2nd into March 3rd. And then we had these storms last night on May 3rd. So, man, we can't really catch a break, can we? Look at this tree. This was actually where wind just totally snapped this tree and it took the bark right with it. Can you see that? It was really a sight to see because that bark was so fresh. It just knocked over into the street. Here's a little bit of a bigger view of that. You can see that just kind of peeled back, like it was just a twig. But this is a very tall, mature tree that was knocked over. This is right near Lipscomb University in Green Hills. In this picture right here, this was taken on Lone Oak Road in Green Hills, and people were out just walking around yesterday after the storms blew through because no one had power and everyone could see all the debris out their windows, so people were just kind of going on a walk. So you can see just how big, massive that tree is compared to the people here on the ground. So that road is obviously blocked. My way to work this morning, I saw a lot of cones up around roads where people couldn't get through. So we've got NES working around the clock trying to get these trees off the power line so that they can restore them. And the latest news this morning during the press conference was it could take up to a week to get everyone's power back. This is actually the largest power outage that NES has ever seen. And this is all thanks to straight line winds. So, like I said, we have more power outages from these thunderstorms last night than we did when the tornadoes hit here 2 months ago. So that's really something. And I keep talking about Nashville because these were where the pictures were taken, but I see some of your comments. We had damage all around. Thank you, Sherry. She says Smithville got some storm damage. Trees down, some damage to buildings there. I know a lot of people don't have power all over. Someone's asking if there's power near Opryland. I'm not sure, but that's over near the East Nashville area, and that is where the tornadoes hit about 2 months ago. So I know there's going to be a lot of cleanup happening there. So those straight line winds all happen as a result of a downdraft in that thunderstorm, those really heavy winds. As that air heads out of the storm toward the ground, it speeds up. And that's actually due to some evaporative cooling, is what we call that. As that moisture evaporates, that cold air cools also. That cold air is just so much more dense than the warm air, so it just sinks so much faster. So it's just shooting down from the sky. And so that's what we're seeing. Thank you, Paige. She says that Brentwood has some damage there too. I've seen some trees down that way and into the Creve Hall area. So let's go. There's more pictures here. This one was that tree that's just snapped in half, as you can see that. That was over right near Lipscomb. So a lot of damage over here and into the power lines as well. So I hope you learned something new today about the difference between straight line winds and tornadic winds. You know, they can be just as damaging as a tornado can be. Some of these winds that we saw yesterday, not in Tennessee, but I was looking at the National Weather Service pages out in Missouri and Arkansas, and they had straight line winds that were about 119 miles per hour. And that's the same kind of wind rotation that you have with a strong tornado. So some of these straight line winds can do just as much damage as an EF0 or an EF1 tornado. So we've seen a lot of damage around Middle Tennessee. I hope you can tune in on News 4 at noon. We'll have some more storm reports, some more updates from city leaders about what cleanup efforts are going on. I know a lot of people have roof damage, car damage. We had some hail with this yesterday too. So we'll have the latest for you coming up on News 4 at noon, and I'll be talking about your forecast as well. We have another forewarned weather alert in effect tonight. Unfortunately, some more storms with some of the damaging winds associated with those are going to be happening again tonight. So I'll talk to you about the timeline of that. We'll time it out together in Futurecast, and we'll talk about when we finally get rid of these storms and see some nice weather ahead. So we'll talk all about it on News 4 at noon. Hope you enjoyed today's weather lesson for kids, and be sure to tune in again tomorrow at 11 a.m. right here on Facebook Live. Hope you have a great day and stay safe. We'll see you soon.